congressional hearing in mid-June brought out new allegations. As we wrote extensively last April, the program run by Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, ATF, stood by and watched high-powered assault arms being smuggled over the border and then apparently lost track of them. Many ended up in the hands of drug cartels and were later decommissioned at crime scenes. The nearly 2,000 arms have been traced to multiple murders, including the Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, whistleblower John Dodson, an ATF agent out of the Phoenix office that ran the operation, stated in a CBS interview that he was told by superiors that the Justice Department had full knowledge of the plan. Watch this exchange between Attorney General Eric Holder, who appears to be writing on the hook, writing on the hook, as he fields questions from Republican Darrell Issa in a House hearing held May 3rd. In a June 14th official report by the joint staff of Senator Charles Grassley and Representative Issa now finds that the plan was authorized in the highest levels of the Justice Department. So the Justice Department knew about the ATF running these guns through Mexico, and allegedly lost track of them. The report is the first of a series, promising more revelations in the future as the Mexican and U.S. governments await the results of further investigation by the U.S. Inspector General. The congressional report establishes some basic findings. ATF led a strike force comprised of agents from ATF, Drug Enforcement Administration, which is DEA, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. The operation's goal was to establish a nexus, nexus is something that links two or more things together, between straw purchasers of assault-style weapons and let's see what a straw purchaser is, see if we can find that here. I looked it up the other day, I forgot. A straw purchase or nominee purchase is any purchase wherein an agent agrees to acquire a good or service from someone who is unable or unwilling to purchase the good or service themselves, and the agent transfers the goods, services to that person after purchasing the item. In general, straw purchases are legal except in cases where the ultimate receiver of goods or services use those goods or services in the commission of a crime with the prior knowledge of the straw purchaser, or if the ultimate possessor is not legally able to purchase the goods, services. In some jurisdictions, straw purchases are legal in spite of the fact that the end user is not legally able to purchase the good or service himself. But continuing on, okay, it says, the operation's goal was to establish a nexus between straw purchasers of assault-style weapons in the United States and Mexican drug trafficking organizations, DTOs, operating on both sides of the United States-Mexico border. ATF agents entered the serial numbers of the weapons purchased into the agency's suspect gun database. These weapons were bought by the straw purchasers, included AK-47 variants, Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifles, 38 caliber revolvers, and the FN-57. It also reaches some damning conclusions. This hapless plan allowed the guns in question to disappear out of the agency's view. Unfortunately, ATF never achieved the laudable goal of dismantling a drug cartel. In fact, ATF never even got close. After months and months of investigative work, Fast and Furious resulted only in lying and buying. Indictments of 20 straw purchasers filed January 19, 2011, after Terry's death. Now, mind you, I believe this man said this was a new one in 2012.
That's better or worse. It was recorded as either a handgun, long gun, seller.
See if I can find it.
And the environment, we threw a completely blank. January 9th, they decided, hey, let's do a new one. So that was the one we used for quite a while. But on January 9th, they decided, hey, let's do it.
See how it says April 12th? April 2012? And it said this is January 2011. This is all going on for a long time. After Terry's death, lying and buying involves a straw purchaser falsely filing out ATF Form 4473, which is to be completed truthfully in order to legally acquire a firearm. We just read that. Even worse, ATF knew most of the indicted straw purchasers to be straw purchasers before Fast and Furious even began. Now it turns out, see, so this white man is a damn devil. He already knew. Okay? Because when we just read here, it says they're legal except in cases where the ultimate receiver of goods uses those goods or services in the commission of a crime with prior knowledge of the straw purchaser. They already had prior knowledge of it, because it said it involves a straw purchaser falsely found out ATF Form 4473, which is to be completed truthfully in order to legally acquire a firearm. Even worse, ATF knew most of the indicted straw purchasers. They were indicted straw purchasers to be straw purchasers before Fast and Furious even began. So they already knew about it beforehand, which that was illegal. It's legal, and straw purchasing is legal except in cases where the receiver of uses where it's being used in the commission of a crime with the prior knowledge of the straw purchaser. So this white man already knew. Let's get a scripture on that. Psalms 94 and 20. It says, "Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law?" That's white man framing mischief by a law, because you know they was going around making it seem like this was legal. So what do we see now? And they were doing this in Mexico. So what it is that we see is the so-called white man taking these drugs and running them into Mexico was what? It was a plan to make the Mexicans, the Latin tribes, be viewed as criminals, be viewed as criminals as being with all these different guns, killing people. But yet and still, it was the United States government that was giving the Mexican cartels these guns. The United States government was giving these Mexican drug cartels these guns, and in time, as the crime rate grew, what eventually occurred was guns began to be found on the scene, and they knew that these guns were given to these drug cartels by the ATF. So what did the white men do? Well, you know what? We gave these guns to these Mexican drug cartels. So what can we do to make these to make them be viewed more as criminals? Well, let's switch up the 4473 forms, so we can know who's Hispanic or Latino, because just in case they might have some damn guns. But mind you, you was the one that was giving, just in case they have any guns, they might be part of a Mexican drug cartel. But wait a minute, you was giving the Mexican drug cartels these guns. And since you was giving them these guns and you put these different things out there in the media, everybody's going to be viewing these Mexicans, these different Latin tribe people, these different Latin tribes as criminals. But you the one that gave them the guns to be viewed as criminals in the first place. So now you're going to switch to the 4473 form to put Hispanic or Latino. So now you can keep track of them. When you was the one giving the damn guns in the first place. It says, now it turns out that the scandal may run even deeper. Kenneth Nelson, head of the ATF, testified at the hearing that some of the Mexican drug cartels leaders targeted in the program were paid informants for the FBI and the DEA, but that his agency did not know this at the time. So according to Melson, ATF was working alongside DEA FBI agents who never bothered to mention that the targets of the operation were in fact paid informants. Assuming this is true, this indicates either an extreme lack of common sense coordination or for some reason for the DEA and FBI to want their drug cartel contacts to receive shipments of illegal arms from the United States. Okay, let me jump down a little bit. I don't want to read this whole article. I already read most of it. It says right here. It says the Mexican government should logically be preparing legal cases against the U.S. government and all responsible for the Fast and Furious program. The congressional report indicates that ATF supervisors regarded violence and deaths in Mexico as inevitable collateral damage. Look at that word, collateral damage. Unintended injuries or deaths caused by an action, especially unintended civilian casualties caused by a military operation, or killings of civilians in military attack. So it says, Mexican government officials estimate that at least 150 Mexican deaths resulted from arms registered in the suspect gun database and tracked back to Fast and Furious. A memo release showed Supervisor David Wolf eagerly reporting that during the month of March 2010, straw purchasers under surveillance purchased 359 firearms and murders spiked to 958. See that? The correlation between gun walking, that's what happens when they basically let guns just walk into different neighborhoods in a different country. They call it gun walking. And increased violence in Mexico was viewed with enthusiasm. One agent of the ATF, or any one of them other groups, alphabet groups, one agent noted that the response was, the violence is going through the roof down there. We are on to a good thing here. Mexican lives didn't seem to matter. That's the tribe of Issachar. The recent allegations of DEA and FBI paid informants in drug cartels also raised serious questions, especially given the lack of public information regarding DEA and FBI actions in Mexican territory. That's basically it. So basically what the so-called white man was doing was he was taking guns through the ATF and, ICE and the IRS and the DEA, they were taking these guns and they were letting these guns walk